So I want to try something a little bit different. It's going to be a different format, but it's going to be a lot easier. So hopefully I'll be able to do more of these. So obviously the pick is not going to be surprising because you're going to see who it is beforehand. But again, we'll see how it goes. A couple quick things. Packernet.com's or packernet.weebly.com is where you can find all of my 2021 boards. I've got a 2021 tracker, so you can see how prospects are moving up and down, as well as mock drafts. I'm going to be posting these on Facebook and YouTube. So Pack Daddy NFL is the YouTube channel if you're not watching there. Otherwise, the Facebook page is called Mock Drafts. It might be harder to find. Maybe just go to Facebook/groups/ I think it's Mock Drafts. That will take you to the group, and then you can find the page there. So anyways, those are the places you can find it. Let's give this a shot and see how it goes. With the first pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Washington Redskins select Trevor Lawrence, quarterback out of Clemson. So obviously the only objection I can imagine, well, there's two objections. Number one, the Redskins aren't going to be number one from Redskins fans. I didn't pick the order, all right? I just went to tankathon.com. That's where I got the order from. If you don't like it, take it up with them. Obviously the order isn't set, but that's not really important right now. We're very early in this process. The only other thing is that they just had Dwayne Haskins. Look, if you're number one, first of all, we know Dwayne Haskins didn't have a great year. So are you really going to be that invested in Haskins? And by the way, new organization, new guys coming in to take over the Washington Redskins, they're going to stay on Haskins instead of taking a guy like Trevor Lawrence. I think there's zero chance of that happening. Now, it's obviously possible that another quarterback becomes the consensus number one. Trevor Lawrence, though, has been a guy to watch basically since he got into college. He's been hyped up since forever, incredibly talented arm. You can see some of these passes. I'm trying to talk as much as possible so you can see some of these highlights. I don't have a lot to say, so some of these you're not going to be able to see much. But as of right now, this is the consensus number one, and it's not even close. So with the first pick, the Washington Redskins select Trevor Lawrence. With the second pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Justin Fields, quarterback, Ohio State. So again, this is the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know they said they're going to give Minshew a shot, but come on, you're number two right now, and Justin Fields is. Some people think he's going to go before Trevor Lawrence. Now, full disclosure, I'm going off of my current 2021 board. I'm sticking to it as best as I possibly can. I'm not as big on Justin Fields as a lot of people. In fact, he is not even my QB2 right now, and we'll get to who that is. Obviously, I don't think anybody agrees with me, but I don't care. We'll get to the highlights, so hopefully you'll get a chance to see it. But again, I don't think this is really a question. Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields are expected to go 1 and 2 right now, just depending on which teams are there. And if it falls Redskins Jaguars, I tend to think that the Jacksonville Jaguars will be taking Justin Fields, quarterback out of Ohio State. With the third pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to trade away their pick. Yes, we're doing trades in my first 2021 mock. That's how I roll. They're going to trade away their pick to the Las Vegas Raiders. And with the third overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Matt Corral, quarterback, Ole Miss. So this is, I don't want to sound too crazy because people are going to lose it. I think this might be my QB1. This is, in my opinion, Jordan Love, if Jordan Love was a better quarterback and didn't have the flaws. So I haven't done an in-depth study. Maybe he's got some major red flags that a lot of people know about that I just don't know about. But the mobility, the ability to throw on the run, and I have to talk until we get to that certain highlight, but just everything. He's got absolutely everything. The arm is just beautiful. Again, the ability to throw off platform. He's by far my favorite quarterback. I'm not saying he's going to be the best quarterback. That was not a great throw, but I'm super excited about it. And he's actually not on my current 2021 board because I have a rule that says, I think this is the play right here. Watch this. Boof. Right in the pocket. I mean, it's just, who in the world can do that? Anyways, I have a rule that you have to have at least 2 boards grading you so that it's not just one board that's really high on you, putting you in a random spot. So there's got to at least be able to average out 2 boards. As I get later in the season, I use 3 boards, but as of right now, that would leave us with almost no prospects. So he's only on 1 board right now, so he didn't make it. But again, you can go to the tracker and see that he was, I think, number 9 overall on my first 2021 board. And after I watched him, I said, there's no way that a quarterback needy team isn't going to trade up and get this guy. And in this case, we're going to go with the Raiders, who have done, I think, actually a pretty good job of tearing down and rebuilding. They're also doing what I really like a team to do. Look at this guy. And he does a great job of avoiding that hit. He doesn't take head on hits. He does a great job of that. I'm absolutely obsessed with Matt Corral. Um, I'm trying not to watch the highlights and to talk, but they've done a great job of building, and I think they're doing what a lot of teams need to do. You build around first, and then you drop a quarterback in. I'm not saying it has to be the last thing, but they've got an offensive line. They've got a run game. They're going to add some weapons at wide receiver. They've got a tight end already. You drop a guy like Matt Corral in there, and that's going to be the finishing piece for Gruden. This is going to be the thing that caps it all off. And of course, Gruden wants to get his quarterback. So that's what he's going to do. He's finally going to make his move. He's got his guy in a real deep year where two quarterbacks just went, and he still gets a guy that's got Pat Mahomes level upside. The guy is just incredible. So one of the things that's going to be tricky is not everybody in 2021 has highlights, but offensive line could be tricky. But we're watching left tackle here, and with the again, it's a weird format, but get over it. That's who you're looking at as the left tackle. With the fourth pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Penei Sewell, offensive tackle, Oregon. I don't know how to pronounce these names yet. I'm sorry. I just don't. We'll get there eventually, but that's what we're going with. He is on some people's boards, top 3, top 2. I think maybe even in some places he is a number 1 prospect. Left tackle, Penei Sewell, Penny Pasta, whatever. Left tackle out of Oregon. As of right now, and again, things can change, this is a lock, and the only reason he's not going to go as early as number 1 is because of all the quarterback talent. But this guy is an absolute lock, top 10, top 5 prospect. Carolina Panthers obviously need a lot of things that they need to do. Last year, or technically last year for us, last week, the Carolina Panthers went all in on building up this defense, and the defense needed a lot of help. But the fact of the matter is the offense is not where it needs to be either, and you've got an offense that runs off of a running back. We got to start building up. You got to start getting even key pieces, potentially even quarterback, but in this case, we're not in a spot to get a quarterback. So we're going to go and get that key piece at left tackle, and we're talking about a generational talent. At least that is the perception right now, better than anybody we had in the 2020 class. And he's going to anchor this thing down and be a fantastic prospect for the Carolina Panthers. With the 5th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Gregory Rousseau, edge rusher, Miami. So far, I mean, this is actually a beautiful draft for everybody. Because everybody's just kind of getting lined up with exactly what they need. Obviously, the Cincinnati Bengals did trade back, but I mean, top needs are just falling into guys' laps, and I don't think that can be personified any more so than with the New York Giants right here, who desperately could use some help off the edge, getting a premier edge rusher. And there are 2 very good edge rushers right now. At least that's the consensus at this point. Again, a lot is going to change. But right now, there are 2 really top-tier edge rushers. And again, the only reason they're following is because you've got even more premier positions like quarterback and offensive tackle that are going first. So you've got a guy that in other draft classes could be a consensus number 1 overall pick that is falling all the way down to number 5 for the New York Giants. And again, there's just no question. I don't think there's any debate that they could use a premier pass rusher, and to have a guy like Rousseau fall into their lap would just be absolutely incredible. I'm going to let this run off so we can at least watch one more highlight of the man. Just a really, I mean, he's just a big body guy. He's got that kind of Myles Garrett feel to him, real long, real lanky, but just a ton of power in that body. So, going to be a great prospect for the Giants. With the 6th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Xavier Thomas, edge rusher out of Clemson. So the Miami Dolphins are just they're building, right? They're starting to get some key pieces in place. They could still use another really, really premier edge rusher, which they don't have right now. And again, it just falls in line perfectly. Again, we've got 2 really good edge rushers. It's sitting right here. The Dolphins have got their quarterback. They've got their tackle, presumably. We got to see some other pieces, but with him sitting here, I don't think this is even debatable. This is another really, really quality edge rusher. That you can see is again, he's got a lot of athleticism. He doesn't look quite as long and lanky as a guy like Gregory Rousseau, but just an absolute enforcer on this defense, and he's going to be a fantastic player for the Miami Dolphins, who again are really trying to utilize these early and often picks that they've got over these next couple of years to really start to build something. This is your opportunity. Similar to the Raiders, this is your chance to really build the core, the foundation of your team. You better make it count, and getting a guy like this is going to pay absolutely massive dividends for your team. Again, we're watching the left tackle here. With the 7th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions are going to trade their pick to the LA Chargers. With the 7th pick, the LA Chargers select Samuel Cosme, offensive tackle, Texas. So this is relatively straightforward. The offensive line for the Chargers is kind of terrible, and I don't know, man. I'm tired of talking about how bad I feel for Chargers fans because you always feel like they're right there and they're so close, but after losing your quarterback and now you got a new quarterback, and it just feels like it's never really coming together. We got to view this as a rebuild a little bit. We've got our quarterback. We've got to build up this offensive line. We've really got to just kind of start from the ground up and try to build up, and we got to be smart about it. And so we're not giving up a lot of capital. We're only moving up 3 spots. We're giving up a 3rd-round pick to the Detroit Lions to move up 3 spots to get a premier left tackle. And again, for the compensation, this is kind of a no-brainer because, again, this offensive line is a joke. And one of the things I hate, if you've watched my videos, one of the things I hate is drafting a quarterback when you have a terrible offensive line. It drives me insane. You better work on this offensive line. Wow. Can you jump off sides a little bit there, Chief? Anyways, so moving on. With the 8th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select, sorry, I forgot to mute the dumb video, select Patrick Surtain, quarterback out of Alabama. So I don't really know. This is part of the process of trying to figure out where fan bases lie. But in my opinion, I think you can make a case that cornerback is going to be the biggest need going into 2021 for the New York Jets. You could argue that it might already be the biggest need. But again, this is kind of a simple situation. I actually think this is a pretty stacked cornerback class. I think there's going to be several of them going in the 1st round. And again, I think this is a great value, but you just got some premier. I mean, we've had 3 quarterbacks, 2 tackles, and 2 edge rushers go. So when you're a cornerback or a wide receiver or whatever, you might have the talent to be worthy of a top 10 pick, top even 5, but you're going to fall because those kind of positions are always going to go first. So top cornerback of a really stacked cornerback class is going to fall to the New York Jets at 8 to select Patrick Surtain, cornerback out of Alabama. Once again, we're watching the left tackle. With the 9th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select Liam Eichenberg, offensive tackle, Notre Dame. So I really think there's a lot of options that we can go in here for the Cincinnati Bengals. You could say wide receiver with A.J. Green leaving, but we just got T. Higgins, who some people comped him as an A.J. Green kind of person, so you pair him with Boyd. I think that's going to be fine. I know we've got Jonah Williams that we could, he's coming back or whatever, but I still want to build around my new quarterback. I still want to build up this offensive line. We have the running back. We have the wide receivers. Offensive line is really the biggest question mark. And again, I know you have a tackle who is unproven, but why don't we just go out and try to really solidify these important tackle positions, especially, after just watching some of these highlights of edge rushers. These guys are stone cold killers, man. You got to watch out for guys that are, especially even in your own division. Being able to seal off the edges is going to be important. We still got to work on the interior, but we can get that in the later rounds. So, and again, remember, we traded back, so we got some additional compensation to be able to do so. So we're going to be able to build up this offensive line. But I really think at this particular point in time, while there's a couple different directions we could go, I want to continue building the offense. I want to get a premier tackle, and we'll figure out left tackle, right tackle, all that stuff when the time comes. With the 10th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Jamar Chase, wide receiver, LSU. So there is a universe in which you have the Lions trying to push their way up to get a quarterback, but I feel like this early in the process, I'm not going to go kind of crazy with my predictions. We're going to keep it kind of simple. They obviously do have a very good wide receiver, but they've also got a couple guys that I don't know if they're going to be around after next year. And so, it's hard to say what the Lions are going to do. I don't know if they're probably going to have a new regime coming in, which actually would make sense for going for a new quarterback. We know that that's what happens when you get a new GM, head coach. You want to go out and get your guy at quarterback. But anyways, again, we're not going that direction. We're going to load up at wide receiver. We've got a quarterback. We've got a good number 1 wide receiver. We're going to go out and get a guy that makes our current number 1 our number 2, Jamar Chase. Very, very talented. After watching him, he kind of reminds me of CeeDee Lamb. but I think is a better prospect. And understand, I'm kind of saying he might be number one in the 2021 class, but I also wasn't as high on CeeDee Lamb as a lot of people. But you see the same kind of body control and all that kind of stuff. I just think he's a better receiver. I think he's got more speed. I think he's a better route runner. I think he's just going to be an absolutely incredible wide receiver. So the Detroit Lions are going to get Jamar Chase with the 10th overall pick. With the 11th overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Shaun Wade, cornerback, Ohio State. So this was a little bit tricky. They obviously went absolutely crazy with offense this past year, just stacking up talent to try to build around Drew Lock. Obviously, if that doesn't pan out, you might be looking at quarterback. There really aren't great options, and I'm not going to assume it doesn't work out, again, this early on in the process. And so I'm looking at defense, and I know Vic Fangio is a great defensive mind. They've got the safeties. And as I'm looking at it, I'm trying to figure out where to go. They went out and got A.J. Boye, and I although he was starting to fall off with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and you could say, especially by PFF standards, that he did fall off. I think in the Vic Fangio system, I think he's going to be a phenomenal cornerback, and I've gone over that previously. I'm not going to do it again. Similar to what happened with Kyle Fuller, it looked like he was a bust, and Vic Fangio made him a star. And as soon as Vic Fangio left, Kyle Fuller was a bust all over again. I think that's going to happen similarly with A.J. Boye. I think it's just the kind of that zone scheme kind of system is going to help him out. But outside of that, and although they did bring in from the Chicago Bears Callahan to play in the slot, who is a good slot guy, he's pushing 30 years old and coming off injury and all that kind of stuff. I just think getting a second lockdown guy, and I don't know exactly where you're going to put Shaun Wade. I know he can play. He's kind of like a Jair, where you can put him in the slot if you want, but I think he has the talent to play outside. I think that's going to be a versatile piece, which, by the way, the Broncos just had a guy like that who was an outside-inside versatile guy, one of the better cornerbacks for a very long time, who is now gone, and I think you're getting another one to build on this already stacked defense. And if this offense pans out, especially around the quarterback, with all this talent you now have on offense, the talent you've already had on defense, and you get a secondary lockdown guy, and again, I'm assuming A.J. Boye gets back to what he was at his elite level, this is going to be a very, very good football team. There's a lot of ifs in there, but this has some potential to make them an unbelievable football team. We're watching right tackle here, and with the 12th overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Cade Mays, offensive guard, Tennessee. All right, so that threw me for a minute. I thought I messed up this whole video. He transferred to Tennessee after this. And also, I did call him an offensive guard. We're going to slide him into offensive guard. That's what he's listed as here, so I'm assuming that's at least a question. That's what we're going with, all right? Just bear with me. So we're watching a right tackle. He's going to play offensive guard. It's a little bit early to go interior, but I just feel like what the Cardinals are trying to do, as far as offense heavy and getting lots and lots of wide receivers, really spreading this thing out and trying to move the ball down the field. I really want to try to build up this offensive line, which is struggling quite a bit. Again, it might be a little bit early, but I don't really want to trade back because I'm afraid we might lose him. Just go for it, man. If you really feel like we're on the cusp of something, in my opinion, and you believe that this is the guy that can really make a big difference, why trade back? Even if, let's say, he's a better value at, where are we at, 12? He's a better value around 20. Don't go back there just because it's a better value. Now, if you have a lot of needs, just get a better prospect, and you could argue that the Cardinals do have a lot of needs, but I really want an interior offensive lineman. I think Cade Mays is again, maybe not quite worth this high of a pick for an interior guy, but I don't really care. I'm just going to go get him anyways. This is what we're doing. We're going to build up this offensive line, build around our quarterback, get this offense moving, and we're going to really start to make a push here. Again, debatable pick, but it's kind of where I'm at with this right now. I don't really care about value. I just want to go get my guys. With the 13th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Caden Stearns, safety, Texas. So, I mean, I know you guys took a safety, in the third round or something like that. I'm not really buying into it. And also beyond that, I think you've got two safeties that I really don't believe in. So either way, I really think safety help is what when I'm looking at this team and I'm saying, what is it we really need? Based on where the board's at, I don't think this is a really hard decision for me getting Caden Stearns out of Texas. There's so much going on wrong with this team, and you could take it in a bunch of different directions. If there was an edge rusher available, I'd probably just go get it because you can never have too many of them. Let's just see if we can get an elite guy. but we need defensive help. There's no question about that. So I'm going to go out and get Caden Stearns, and hopefully we can get the backside of this defense kind of figured out, because I just think it's kind of a disaster area for the Falcons. With the 14th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Jalen Waddle, wide receiver, Alabama. So this just feels good, right? So again, it's our second pick. We've already got an edge rusher, which is a premium piece, but at the same time, we got to still build around this quarterback. We need to help out our quarterback. In 2020, we didn't even touch quarterback or wide receiver, until the 7th round. We got to do better. And not only are we doing that, not only are we making a massive investment in the first round with a top tier wide receiver in a stacked wide receiver class, but we're going to get Jalen Waddle, who played with Tua, and so that chemistry is already there. I mean, there's a lot of critiques about Tua and his ability to play, or maybe he just had good wide receivers. Fine, then we're just going to bring all his wide receivers back over here and recreate Alabama. Obviously, we can't do all of that, but this just feels right. I mean, for every reason available, Jalen Waddle is a really, really top tier, and like some of his teammates, the speed is what really kills. And as you can see, he's got some return ability. I don't know if you're actually going to use him in that capacity, being your number one wide receiver. Usually you don't want to risk it, but why not? Just get crazy with it, I guess. With the 15th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns are going to trade away their pick to the Indianapolis Colts. With the 15th pick, the Indianapolis Colts select Brock Purdy, quarterback, Iowa State. So I don't currently believe in your quarterback, and excuse me, but I don't really buy into the Eason hype either. I don't really think that's going to go anywhere. I think the Colts are still going to need a quarterback. And with the Bears coming up in 2 picks, it's kind of getting into now or never territory. The Cleveland Browns I have kind of a hard time with the board set up as it is, trying to figure out where to go. So I'm okay with the idea of moving back. And again, they've got a trade partner in the Colts that I think are desperate to come up right now. Brock Purdy is a very talented quarterback. I think this is still a good value, even though we're moving up and he's a little bit later on the board. I still think this is a good value for a starting quarterback. And again, if you don't jump the Bears, you're not getting them. With the 16th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Walker Little, offensive tackle, Stanford. And we actually do have a highlight reel of a offensive lineman, which is kind of cool to see. But so this is our second pick, right? With our first pick, we got Justin Fields, so we got our quarterback. And thanks to our 2020 draft, we're actually pretty stacked with wide receiver. We went out and got some wide receivers to add to this crew. So we've got our quarterback, we've got some wide receivers. What we don't have is an offensive line. We also might need a running back, considering things seem a little volatile over there. But that's secondary to getting this offensive line together. And I think Walker Little is a great piece. I think in a different context, Walker Little would have gone a lot earlier. But again, it's a pretty deep, so quarterback, offensive tackle, wide receiver, cornerback. There's a lot of them in this class. And again, there's going to be a lot of volatility that could change over time. We'll see who kind of rises and falls. But offensive tackle, along with those other positions, are pretty stacked. And when something is stacked like that, they tend to fall. When you see kind of trade ups or people going too early, a lot of times is when there's not a lot of them and it's kind of a now or never thing. But fortunately for the Jaguars, they can sit at 16 and still get a really quality offensive tackle in Walker Little out of Stanford. With the 17th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Justin Ross, wide receiver, Clemson. So clearly I would have had them taking Brock Purdy if he was available. I don't have any quarterbacks right now, and you might have some in mind that they would be a great value to take. Again, we're early, so I'm sticking to my board right now. So with no quarterbacks available, I'm looking at a team that, first of all, we've gone out in free agency and gotten a ton of wide receivers. We keep taking swings at this. We do have a good one in Allen Robinson, but we've got a bunch of other wide receivers that just aren't panning out as many times as we keep taking swings. Let's go out and get a wide receiver. Let's go out and draft one. I don't know how long Allen Robinson's going to be around, but we got a bunch of guys that are going to be gone real soon. We're going to get our quarterback eventually, and when we do, we're going to want to give him some weapons. And even now, depending on what happens with this quarterback battle, which I have to assume Trubisky's not going to win, but either way, let's try to get some help. The defense is still our strength, although that seems to be eroding, but that's still where we're strong. But we got to improve this offense if we're going to get back to the playoffs and make a real push at this. So let's go out and get a top-tier wide receiver. Now we have 2 really good wide receivers. We have a capable enough quarterback. And we drafted a running back in 2019, so hopefully that kind of pans out. There's a lot of questions, but I think with Justin Ross, we can at least solidify something that we keep taking swings at. We can stop getting these second-rate wide receivers in free agency and just leave that alone, start putting our attention elsewhere. That's kind of where I'm at with that. With the 18th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Minnesota Vikings are going to trade away their pick to the Philadelphia Eagles. With the 18th pick, the Eagles select Paulson Adebo, cornerback, Stanford. So a lot of Eagles fans, not all of them, I watched a few different reaction videos, were really happy about Jalen Reagor and really wanted wide receiver help. Even guys that didn't like Reagor wanted wide receiver, and it's been a constant refrain that the biggest need for the Eagles is wide receiver. I don't agree. I think the biggest need for the Eagles was a cornerback. Not that you don't need a wide receiver, but corner, I think, is clearly a bigger need. They didn't draft a single corner in the entire draft, not one. So I'm assuming going into 2021, the desperation for a cornerback is going to be absolutely through the roof. Obviously, there's a chance they address it in free agency, but we're not going to be thinking that far ahead. Massive, massive need for this team. So trading up is essential for this team. So we're going to fight and fight and fight to get up. So as soon as the Minnesota Vikings are sitting there, and again, the way that I do these mock drafts, I don't ever look at teams and say who wants to trade up, because it takes two to tango. And ultimately, it's if I'm a team and I'm drafting and I like a guy, I'm going to take a guy. If I'm kind of either there's a lot of options and I'm not sure which one to pick, or I just don't like the way the board is set up, that's when I start looking to trade back, and that's when I find a trade partner, and that's kind of where I was at with the Minnesota Vikings. So I don't remember. I think it was another most of these are third-round picks. For some reason, that just always seems to be a good value. But they traded back quite a bit. But the other thing to note, we traded back to 23, and the Packers pick at 24. So we traded back, we got some compensation, and we still made sure that we get to sit in front of the Packers and take somebody that they like. So a little extra added bonus there. With the 19th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Micah Parsons, linebacker, Penn State. So generally, my thought on this is we've taken a few swings at linebacker. We've got Taki, and the point is it's just not really working out. Maybe you like the guys you've got. I don't think you have good linebackers. So we're finally going to say, all right, enough is enough, and take a real serious swing at this and just solve the problem. I know nobody likes taking a linebacker in the first round, but when you keep taking swings at things and you just can't quite get what you need, let's just solve it, man. A lot of people really like him and think he's going to go very early, Micah Parsons. Again, it's very early in the process, but I genuinely believe he's not going to go Isaiah Simmons early, but in terms of actual true linebackers, which Simmons is more of a hybrid type of guy, in terms of true linebackers, if he was in the 2021 class, he goes before any of Kyler Murray, Queen, either of those guys. Very, very well liked in the draft community right now. So again, nobody likes taking a linebacker, but if I'm the Browns, let's just solve this problem, man. Let's just get this figured out and take care of it. With the 20th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select LeBrian Ray, defensive tackle, Alabama. So this is a tough one. The Titans are one of those teams where it's hard to really identify, for me anyways, the biggest need that they have. They've got a lot of positions you can look at and say they could use an upgrade, no question about it, but it's not like a massive, massive need. Like if this doesn't, like the Eagles with the cornerback or whatever. So it really just kind of came down to what makes the most sense. LeBrian Ray is a great value right here. And as I'm looking at it, you've got Isaiah Simmons, right? And there's a lot of potential for him really stepping up, but you're not 100% sure what he brings. And then outside of that, I don't know that I really love anybody. So it kind of just made the most sense. I mean, I would like an edge rusher, but we don't really have that. And LeBrian Ray, I haven't watched any of his highlights until this moment, but the last time I watched him, I said that wrong. I haven't watched him in a long time since today, but I remember really, really liking LeBrian Ray. And he's like a lot of Alabama guys. He has some inside-outside versatility. I don't think with the Titans, who like to have, 3-4 outside linebacker types, a little smaller type guys, that he's going to spend a lot of time outside. But he does have that ability and bring some pass rush ability to your team on top of just being a big Alabama monster like most of them are. So, again, this one, it made me a little uncomfortable, but I still think as far as the way the board is stacked up, this is the one that made the most sense to me. So with the 20th pick, the Titans will select LeBrian Ray, defensive tackle, Alabama. With the 21st pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots select Rondale Moore, wide receiver, Purdue. So I don't even know. I don't know what the Patriots' plan is. This is really weird and uncharted territory. But I mean, obviously, if a quarterback was here, I would take him, but I just don't have a quarterback that I think is worth it right now. And so I'm looking at trying to help out this offense and trying to help whatever quarterback we have sitting there at the time. And we just drafted 2 tight ends. We have added some help along the offensive line. The one thing we still really need is a wide receiver. So I'm going to take the best wide receiver available by the name of Rondale Moore, wide receiver out of Purdue. And we'll just see how this thing goes. Maybe I'm wrong. And I'm once again, like every year, underestimating the Patriots, who are going to, be better than expected. But I just feel like they're headed for a really big collapse, man. I don't see anything that I like. But again, I'm doing my best to try to use what they have and build off of it, because it's kind of just a mess right now. With the 22nd pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Marvin Wilson, defensive tackle, Florida State. So to be honest, I think this pick makes entirely too much sense. It's too much of a good value for the Seattle Seahawks to actually do it. But I'm going to go ahead and try to actually help this team for once, unlike their GM, who, in my opinion, is incompetent. And I apologize to Seahawks fans who don't like me saying that. I get yelled at a lot for that. But I kind of feel like after 2 years of me saying that, you should be coming around by now. After draft of this garbage, and watching your team go from the greatness that it was to the garbage that it's becoming, where you essentially are a quarterback dragging a team. I don't know. I'm just saying. But either way, it kind of saddens me to watch what a once great defense has become, and especially along that defensive line. There's just not much left, and I just want to get a little bit more of that back. I want a little bit of that fire left before everybody's just completely gone. Just a smash mouth guy that's going to get in the middle and is just going to tear some stuff up. I want that fear back. I want not my fear. I want other teams to fear us for once, which just isn't the case anymore. We need an enforcer, and I'm going to start right in the smack dab center of this defense, and I'm going to go out and get a guy that, again, is a really good value, a really big, talented, scary defensive piece, Marvin Wilson, defensive tackle out of Florida State. Once again, watching the left tackle here. With the 23rd pick, back on the clock, the Minnesota Vikings select Trey Smith, offensive guard, Tennessee. So once again, we've got a tackle that we're going to call a guard. Now, I actually think I appreciate the Vikings tackles more than Vikings fans do. So I don't think Vikings fans would even be upset if we called him a tackle. Maybe I'm misreading that. I don't know. I'm trying to read fans a little bit. But either way, I think it should be fairly unanimous that you still need help along the offensive line, especially along the interior. I know you just drafted a center. Maybe you like him. I think that's unfounded. But let's say he gets a little bit better. Still, the amount of help we need at guard. And again, I think a lot of Vikings fans don't really like their current tackles. I don't know that I super need to defend this pick, but the plan right now, we're going to take Trey Smith out of Tennessee. We're going to slide him into guard. And again, I genuinely, not that they're top tier prospects, and you could definitely do better than your tackles, but I think they're serviceable offensive tackles. We drafted a center in 2019. We're going to move him into guard and assume he's going to be pretty solid. We've got a running back that we really like. We still got some good wide receivers, despite the fact that we lost Diggs. We added another really good wide receiver in Jefferson. We still got Kirk Cousins. Again, this is just a matter of we're going to try to build this thing up and really get this thing moving. And although defense is probably a pretty strong consideration, I still am worried about this offensive line. It hasn't been that big of a hindrance as much as you might think for a team that actually has a pretty decent offense at times, but I'm still concerned about it. So that's where I'm going to go with this. We're going to get Trey Smith, offensive tackle / guard out of Tennessee, and wherever he slots in. Again, it's just the best 5. If he's the best tackle, maybe we slide one of these other guys into guard. It doesn't matter. We're going to fix the offensive line. With the 24th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Green Bay Packers select Rashad Bateman, wide receiver, Minnesota. So this could not be any easier. If I pick anything other than a wide receiver, I have just lost every single Packer fan that is watching this video, and they will never watch another video I do. The anger and the angst, that was a real nice move, about Packer fans and not getting any weapons for Aaron Rodgers is at an all-time high. Lots of frustration, including not just Packer fans. Everybody kind of feels that way. So that's what we're going to do. And this is a good value. This is a wide receiver. A lot of people are real excited about Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota. We're we're going to assume things are working out, right? We're still going to need probably some offensive line help with guys leaving, but we can address that a little bit later. We've got Devontae still. We've got Rodgers still, presumably, hopefully. For picking 24th, we at least got to the playoffs. And we got our hammer of a running back. So hopefully we got this thing going, and this will be the final piece to cap off what is a really, really solid offense. And this is the final piece. Either way, again, it's not a question of what position we're drafting. It's really just a matter of which wide receiver. And at some point, we'll get realistic and start looking at other options for the Packers. But for right now, to alleviate the frustration, just remember, very deep wide receiver class and a lot of potential to get that real top-tier complement to Davante Adams. With the 25th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Buffalo Bills select Brevin Jordan, tight end, Miami. So I did strongly consider offensive line here, but a lot of the guys like Ford, I want to give them an opportunity to see what they can do. Now, if they're terrible again, then possibly we would relook at that. But again, at this point in the season, we're going to assume that guys like Ford were able to step up and become the guy that we had hoped he would become. We're going to look in a different direction. And the Buffalo Bills really, really need tight end help. I don't think they really have a guy at tight end that you can rely on. Now, I don't know the Bills enough to know how important that is. Some systems, it's absolutely essential. You can't survive without a tight end. Others, it's nice, but it's not super important. Either way, the tight ends we have are not good enough. And near the top of the board is a really top tight end. And there's several. There's a couple different tight ends that are considered potential first-round prospects. This is one of them. And so this is the direction we're going to go. We're going to get a top-end weapon. And I think when you have young and relatively inexperienced quarterbacks, granted, at this point, it's not going to be young or inexperienced, but somewhat questionable talent, I think one of the biggest things you can do to help out a quarterback like that is to get him a tight end. Just give him a big target that most of the time isn't going to be super far down the field, exactly like that, a little relief valve to dump off. You dump it off 4 yards down, and then you get occasional plays like that. Where you can just kind of work the middle of the field, little safety valve that's going to go from 4 yards to 8 to 10 to 12 or whatever he's able to get after the catch. And it really can help at least the smaller area because the offense right now is built around big plays, right? We've got Stephon Diggs for a quarterback with a giant arm. That's all great, and hopefully that works out for us. But we also need a little bit more of that underneath help. And again, just getting a guy that sometimes struggles a little bit with that deep down the field accuracy and whatnot. Let's just take a couple plays off and dump it off to a guy that can make plays a little. I don't want to say Gronkowski as though it's a comp, but you know how Brady all the time would dump it off to Gronk and he would just steamroll people for 40 yards. And then the announcers would say Brady had a great 40-yard pass, even though he threw it 2 yards. Something kind of like that is what we're hoping for here to help out our quarterback. With the 26th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Jay Tufele, defensive tackle, USC. So we're getting kind of later into the draft here, so we don't exactly have highlights, but you can see we're just watching some film, so don't expect necessarily great plays. But again, another really talented defensive tackle, expected to be a first-round prospect. We did a lot to try to build around Tom Brady and to get this offense moving. And it was kind of a similar situation where I wasn't exactly sure where to go. But when you start seeing the talent being guys like Sue and whatnot, he's not going to be around for much longer. You kind of want to move this thing along and see if we can get some younger, more talented kind of guys to be able to fill in those spots. So that was the direction we went to try to build up the defense. Because let's face it, whatever happens with Tom Brady, and as much as we want to help him on offense, he's had some great defenses in New England. So if this becomes a situation where he needs to get into shootouts, I don't know that that's a great situation. So let's also work on the defense a bit. With the, unpause the wrong thing, I'm waiting for the video to start playing. With the 27th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Seth Williams, wide receiver, Auburn. The strength of the Steelers team is the defense. There's no question. I think it was kind of sneakily very, very good. And maybe people didn't realize because it was such a chaotic mess over there without having a quarterback, et cetera, et cetera. But the defense is solid, and we got to do something to match that on the other side. We still have Juju. We got a lot of guys that are due for contract, including Juju, which obviously we're going to re-sign him, but not a lot of players that are expected to be on the team beyond 2020. And so we need depth, but we also could use a little bit more talent, similar to the Green Bay Packers. We do have a good wide receiver, but we could use another number two to really help out complement it so we don't become too one-dimensional and put too much on our defense because, it's just Roethlisberger to Juju or whatever our quarterback situation is. We need more talent on offense to be able to match the defense, as I said. So we're going to go with Seth Williams, wide receiver out of Auburn. With the 28th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Creed Humphrey, offensive center, Oklahoma. So I think a lot of people still assume that this is an elite offensive line, and it is. It's a very good offensive line, but it does have some weak spots, including where you look at Connor Williams, as well as your center. I'm blanking on the names, but the point is you've got at least two spots that are really weak spots, despite the fact that you have three other players that are just about as good as you can get. But it still is one of the core of this offense and as what has got us to where we were. And I don't want to see that erode, right? When we were at our peak, we had this offensive line that was just unstoppable. And so obviously you can run the ball really well and you can stand in the pocket for a long time and throw the ball. We're now going out and getting another wide receiver. And so we got these weapons, but I don't want to take our eye off the ball of what is something that is incredibly important and is going to help this offense continue to be not just really good, but dominant and borderline unstoppable. And so I'm going to go out and do the responsible thing, get an interior offensive lineman. We're going to take Creed Humphrey with the 28th pick. With the 29th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Josh Jobe, cornerback, Alabama. So I can't even find a video of this guy. However, he's on this video somewhere. So do what you can. I found high school film, but we're not going to do that. But as far as the Saints are concerned, it's hard to look at Jenkins and Lattimore and say that they need cornerback help. But the fact of the matter is Marshawn Lattimore, he was at his best in his rookie year, and it seems like he's becoming less impactful year after year. Beyond that, Jenkins is 500,000 years old. So at the very least, we're going to need to replace him at some point. So we're going to do something. We're going to go out and get a critical piece, a cornerback. When you got a powerhouse offense, if you can lock down other teams' wide receivers, you're already in a real good position. And so it's not a massive need, but I do think it's going to be a need for this team. And to be able to stack up really talented cornerback pieces. I know Marshawn Lattimore, again, I've said he's kind of falling off, but he's still a very, very good cornerback. To be able to pair him up with a guy like Josh Jobe, hopefully premier cornerback duo on top of everything else they have going for them. Obviously, according to this ranking, we didn't quite get to the Super Bowl again, but we're going to get there this time. With the 30th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Baltimore Ravens select Devonta Smith, wide receiver, Alabama. I've been pretty consistent on this. I know that we have Hollywood Brown. I think he's a very kind of one-dimensional player. Not only that, he's not so much of a possession guy. I don't know what his upside is. He's a good wide receiver that you like to have, but I genuinely think that this might be the worst wide receiver group in football. I think Hollywood is a good complement, and then outside of that, you don't have very much. We need a secondary wide receiver. Now, maybe this isn't the best quote-unquote complement, because as you can see, there's a lot of down-the-field throws to Devonta Smith as well, but he is the top wide receiver left. And I don't know that there's anybody else that wouldn't be on our current board a reach. And as you can see, he can do a lot of other stuff. It's not just that. But the bottom line is I want to have more wide receiver help. We've got a great offense. We've got a great quarterback. But I don't want to just assume that Lamar Jackson's going to be able to do this all on his own. And I know we do have tight ends and whatnot. I still want to get him more weapons. I still want better wide receiver production. And if Hollywood Brown ends up becoming this elite wide receiver, it's still not going to hurt us to have a second really good wide receiver. It's just not. So that's the direction we're going to go. We're going to stack up this offense a little bit. With the 31st pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Dylan Moses, linebacker, Alabama. So I don't like your linebackers. I know I'm the only one, but you name one linebacker on your team that can play the run, and I'll change my pick. There isn't one. There's not one. You've got guys like Quan Alexander who are really good against the pass, but oh my goodness, you might as well have cornerbacks sitting back there at linebacker. I want more of an enforcer piece, and I know it doesn't matter as much when you got a real strong defensive line. I get all that. Still, you can have guys that are quick, flowing to the quarterback, better coverage type guys like Quan Alexander, but can we get a complement of a guy that can actually stop the run? Can we get a guy that can be an enforcer in the middle of the field? Because again, you do not have one, and don't even lie and pretend you do, because you don't. And so for a team that doesn't have a ton of needs, a very, very talented team, I don't mind at the end of the first round getting an enforcer in the middle of the field. I think Dylan Moses is, as you can see, a different kind of breed. And he's not slow. He's not just a straight up thumper that can't cover, but he's not going to be the guy that's what you're going to ask him to do primarily. I mean, if the offense puts him in a spot where that's going to be his job, hopefully he can handle it to some degree. But this is what you like about him. He's going to attack the quarterback. He's going to play the run. He's going to be an enforcer in the middle of the field. And just considering what the 49ers already have, this is just going to take their team to the next level. So with our final pick, with the 32nd pick, we are going to use high school highlights because that's all I got for you. With the 32nd pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select Tyson Campbell, cornerback, Georgia. I know there was a lot of talk toward the end of the year that this defense has really taken a turn and it's a good defense. And I'm sorry. Props to your defensive coordinator for doing a great job of shutting down other teams despite having absolute garbage for a defensive crew. But that's what you have. Just what it is, especially at cornerback. And then when you look at, first of all, the fact that Bashaud Breeland was one of your top, if not your top corners should tell you something because he's not that good of a corner. Beyond that, the guy just got arrested, so he's not even going to be starting this. It's a bad group. And if there's anything I want, it's defensive help. And among defensive players, what I really want is cornerback help. So we're going to go out and we're going to get Tyson Campbell, cornerback out of Georgia. So again, different format. We're just playing with it. Hopefully this kind of worked out so that people actually enjoyed it. I feel like it's kind of cool. I'm not going to be able to monetize any of these videos because I'm ripping them off of YouTube, but whatever. I think it's fun. I like doing the drafts. I like doing the videos. So I just want to get back into the swing of it. So if you absolutely hated it and don't want to watch it, then I guess we won't go this route. But this is the plan. We're going to be doing this for a while. So let me know what you think.